part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi and Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And as we start the new year, shout out to our fantabulous producer. He does a wonderful job making sure all of you out there in the podcatosphere are able to get the R&R podcast. That would be Ty Courts. Ty, good to be back with you for another year. And Reg, got to give a shout out to your son Cal for filling in for me as COVID kicked my ass for about 2 weeks. And Cal kindly stepped in to sit with you and do the last R&R podcast. He might have a future in this business, Reg. I don't know what his major is, but he might have a future in this.
He's a finance guy at The Ohio State University, Kenny. You know, I'm sure you have a young son as well. The young men today, they like that jingle. They like that money. So, he knows that in broadcasting, you're not going to get that. So, but he really enjoyed it and, didn't come in the circumstances given your illness that anyone would have liked. So hope you're feeling much better. And we missed you last week. And, we were able to get that out there with you trying to get healthy. So hopefully that's the case, that you are healthy and ready to roll.
Well, I'll say this. Cal did a lot better job filling in for me than most of the Browns players today, filling in for all those starters at Cincinnati. What a horrible game that was today. Their fifth different starting quarterback in Jeff Driscoll, who originally drafted by the 49ers and the Boston Red Sox. He's played tight end in the NFL, and the Browns said, you know what? Let's throw him out there and see if he's better than P.J. Walker, because we're not sure who our backup quarterback is for the postseason. The Browns lose today 31-14. That doesn't really matter, Reg. Let's go to Jeff Driscoll. I mean, let's start there. If you're Kevin Stefanski, if you're Andrew Berry, is it Jeff Driscoll to back up Joe Flacco heading into next week's playoff game at Houston against the Texans? Is it P.J. Walker, or is it somebody else?
I almost have to say somebody else at this point. I mean, it cannot be Jeff Driscoll. I mean, that, I'm sorry. And again, I'm sure he's a fine young man, but he's not an NFL quarterback to my way of thinking, Kenny. And I think all of the frailties and fragilities with his game showed today. I mean, they had no chance. And look, I'm going to say this at the risk of probably having most of our R&R listeners disagree with me, and that's fine. Ken, just in general principle, I did not like the fact that you go into final game of the year and decide, well, we're just going to sit everybody today. I get it. I understand. Somebody gets hurt. Of course. Okay. Somebody gets hurt, and somebody could get hurt in any one of the other 16 games they played too. Ken, I just didn't like it. To me, my thing would have been, fellas, look, you ones, you first teamers, I'm going to play you into the second quarter. Then we're going to see where we're at and evaluate. You're not going to play the whole football game, but you know what? I want to keep continuity, Ken. I want to keep presence. This isn't the NBA or MLB, where there's 162 in MLB and 82 in the NBA. I mean, there's 17 games now. To me, you're going into a position where you've got a chance. I think we all hope that they can win a couple games in this NFL playoff picture. So to me, Kenny, in my opinion, the best way to go about that and to maintain the continuity of performance is not to sit everybody and have none of the starters play in the final game of the year. Again, I already said, a lot of people will say, Reghi, you're crazy. That's fine. That's fine. It will be the first time that people told me I'm crazy and disagreed. But Kenny, that's my thought on it. And I can't say I was surprised, but again, I just don't think that's the proper way to go. And they better go down to Houston and put on a strong performance and win a football game, Ken. Because if they don't, you might say, well, sitting today had nothing to do with it. Really? Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping that they prove me 1,000,000% wrong and come out next week and don't miss a beat. But if they do, oh boy, is there going to be a lot to deal with then. So I don't know where you're at, partner, on it, but that's my thought on it. I didn't like it that much.
You and I are most of the time in lockstep, on the same page. I was on the side of Stefanski and the Browns sitting everybody today because I don't think, and it proved it to be, I think, accurate. I don't think they stand a chance if Flacco doesn't play, right? Next week, if he were to play today in a meaningless game and gets hurt, they have no chance whatsoever. And the reason I was leaning towards Stefanski with the way he went about things today is Flacco was on the couch for half the season and came out, needed a week or whatever of practice, and he stepped in and he's looked like an all-pro caliber quarterback. So with at least Flacco, I wasn't concerned about it at all. I didn't even want him in the stadium, Reg. I didn't even want him making the trip, getting sick possibly or anything, going to Cincinnati with the team. I wish he would have stayed back, but that's fine. He was there on the bench, had his coat on and all that. Myles Garrett, I didn't want Myles Garrett and Flacco for sure. For me, those guys, I didn't want to see them on the football field at all. So I was happy those two were out and did not play at all. Now, as far as some of the other guys, yeah, maybe a Jerome Ford should have played more today, right? Than he did. They went with Strong as the starting running back. But without the offensive lineman that they elected to sit, I don't know if you wanted to put any of your ones in harm's way. And so I was, I'm on the side of caution. Without my key guys and so many injuries already this season, I was actually okay with them sitting most of the guys that they sat today, especially, like I said, Flacco, and I'll throw Denzel Ward in there, but they should put him in bubble wrap even off the field so he doesn't get hurt before next weekend's game, because he's going to have to deal with Nico Collins and CJ Stroud now. So I heard Terry Bradshaw on the post game. He agrees with you. Terry Bradshaw was talking about, players that sat for a bunch of teams. And Terry said, look, when I played, I wanted to keep it rolling like you wanted to keep it rolling with the momentum and everything. So there's two sides to, this story. But I was on the side of, you know what? If Flacco gets hurt, Garrett gets hurt, or Ward gets hurt, they're not going to have any chance. So at least sit those three guys. That was my biggest thing.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I understand it, and I know by making the statement I did that I'm going to be in the minority on that, and that's okay. It won't be the first time. But again, to me, like I said, not the whole game, but yes, I would have played my ones probably into the second quarter and then reevaluated from there. And if things were going well, great. Maybe only play them a couple of series, but I would have not set them and not let them play, period. Now, I hope this is all nothing but a moot point next week, because, Kenny, if they come out and play well, it doesn't mean a damn thing anyway. Now, if they don't, now we're going to have, I would think the conversation will begin, and we'll see. Let's hope again that that doesn't take place. This is not going to be an easy football game to go win. And, watching the Houston Texans and seeing them and what they've been able to do, and they have been able to do offensively, I'm just hopeful that if next Sunday, Kenny, I hope the Browns don't need 31 or 34 to win that football game, but I'm starting to think that they might. And I hope Flacco and that offense is going to gear up this week and really understanding they may have to let it all out of the bag, on that side of the ball. And I guess what I'm saying is maybe the game might have to be won offensively, because I think that this Houston football team, again, like you, I watched that. They look good. They look good offensively. And so, we'll see if the Browns defense can get right back to where they've been as one of the top 5, 6 defenses in the NFL this year. And if that's the case, and if they come out and put a stranglehold on Stroud and the Texans offensively, then the Browns should be in a real good place to win, advance, move on. Hope that's the case. We'll be discussing it all week long.
I was, from a Browns perspective, looking at it, I would have preferred, if I'm the Browns, to play Jacksonville instead of Houston.
Mm-hmm.
And so from that perspective, I was sitting there going, well, best chance for the Browns to win is at Jacksonville. I wasn't a believer in sunshine in Jacksonville all season long, right? And he decided to take matters into his own hands, I guess, on that fourth down play, right? And he gets stopped short. So I thought they had a better chance of winning. I think they can beat either team. Houston, they already did, right? They beat Houston. They beat Jacksonville. Right. They beat everybody in the AFC South this year. But looking ahead, I would have preferred to play, if I'm the Browns, Jacksonville instead of Houston because of C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins and that connection. Because if you don't put pressure on Stroud, unlike the last time they played, the Texans, they're not going to have Davis Mills back there trying to throw the football or Case Keenum. It's going to be C.J. Stroud, who led the league as far as touchdown to interception ratios this year as a rookie, and threw for the third most yards in a season for a rookie, and he missed a couple of games as well. So this is going to be a tougher game than the 36-22 win the last time they went to Houston in week number 16. And we're going to get into some of the things that are question marks, Reg, for the Browns going into that game. We already talked about one. Who's the backup quarterback? Now, let's be honest. If they have to play a backup quarterback, they're probably not going to win the game, right? If Flacco goes down, not a good chance of winning it. But that's one of the questions, at least for me, going into next week's game. The other big question for me, Reg, is Dustin Hopkins. Is he going to be able to play in this game? Because, as you know, this could come down to the final possession and one kick to win it, to move on, or miss it and go home. And I'm not hearing encouraging things about Dustin Hopkins' hamstring injury when he tried to make a tackle on that kickoff return a couple of weeks ago. Give me your thoughts on that.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, you're 1,000,000% right. I mean, it's going to take away from how you feel about the Browns' opportunity and how you feel about them being able to finish drives with points if Hopkins isn't able to go. And that could become a major issue this week. Let's hope it's not the thing. But, Ken, we're probably not going to know anything definitive about that until at least Friday, if not Saturday. And they're probably going to be telling us that, everything's moving along fine and he'll be ready to go. God, I hope so. And you Browns fans better hope so, because as we know, you can't miss extra points. You can't have special team snafus. Kenny, you can't have bad snaps. And don't run you extra points at field goals. And the ones, I'll say now in this day and age, inside 45, right? 45 and in, you better hit 90% of those. You better be hitting 9 to 10 of those, because if you don't, and then you maybe miss an extra point, that's going to get you beat, as we know. So absolutely, let's hope that Dustin Hopkins is ready to roll, and he is the guy that we've seen do that throughout the course of his career, make 9 of every 10, because the Browns are going to need it.
Riley Patterson, currently the field goal kicker for the Cleveland Browns. And he brought back memories of Cade York for me, wondering what the hell was going to happen on every extra point and every field goal. So good to see Corey Bojorquez back today and did a great job punting the football today. So that's good news. But that kicker position where points are at a premium in the postseason, Reg, the backup quarterback position. And my other biggest concern moving into the game next week is Joe Flacco's offensive turnovers. Now, there were some that weren't his fault, tip ball, or, at the end of the half when they lost, Hopkins. And so they were just throwing the ball up in the end zone. But for me, Flacco's got to do a better job of taking care of the football now in the postseason. He can't average 2 turnovers a game in the postseason, and you can't expect the Browns to win games if he continually does that. So for me, that's my other area of concern. Flacco taking care. I know he's going to take shots down the field, and maybe as a gunslinger, you live with it because he could make some big plays and hit big plays. But on the road, turnovers, you maybe one maximum for the Browns next week if they want to have a shot to win. That's just me.
100%. And I'm hoping, yes, the gunslinger term. Yeah, sure. That's what Joe Flacco is.
Yep.
That's how he's made his name. And he took all those same shots and threw the ball into tight windows and threw the ball into double coverages and small spaces, Kenny, for years as a Baltimore Raven. So this is what this man is. It's in his DNA. And when it works, right, you know, hey, Joe, baby, we love you, man. Yeah, keep taking those shots. But you're so right. You can't have turnovers, and when you get into postseason play, and every turnover you have takes opportunities to put points on the board away from you. And Ken, that is not a success, a necessary ingredient to winning, as we know. So let's hope we get the clean Joe Flacco. I'm not expecting him again to take away his mentality of looking to make plays. That's why he got him, because he's willing to do that. But Ken, at times, I think, game situation, right? You got to be a little judicious, don't you? If don't the best quarterbacks, is that a good word, good phrasing for it, that they get a little bit more judicious? Yes. There's times when you can take those kind of shots into tight windows, but there's other times you just got to pull it back and be willing to get the punt team out, change field positions, and go with your defense. I hope Joe Flacco will do that starting next weekend.
My belief with Flacco, and by the way, I was wrong on Flacco when they brought him in. You liked it. I did not. I was worried that I would see the New York Jets Joe Flacco, the 3-14 in his last 17 starts Joe Flacco. So I was wrong on that. Played 5 games, went 4-1, 13 touchdown passes, right? In those 5 games, he led the NFL in passing yards, so he's looked good. But I have this theory that he came in playing with house money. Hey, wait, if this doesn't work out, it wasn't supposed to work out. Like, I got no worries about it. My legacy's already established. And so he just went out and had fun and was slinging it all over the place. Well, now it's win or go home, right? The pressure is going to be, jacked up a little bit as far as going into the game. And then I'm sure facing defenses coming after Joe Flacco with more pressure as well. So I'm curious to see how the soon-to-be 39-year-old signal caller handles the pressure off the field as well as on the field, because they need him to be a leader off the field this week in that locker room, in practice, Reg, leading up to whenever they play Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, whenever that game is at Houston.
Yeah, well, and I don't want this to be construed as, as this big worry, this big concern about Joe Flacco. We just laid out what he is and how he's made his bones, if you will, in the National Football League. But as I said, there's a time when you have to know. I think the best quarterbacks, Kenny, also, as much as they're willing to, believe in their physical skills, their arm, their knowledge. I also think the best ones know, all right, I've got to pull some of that back right now.
Yep.
And as I said, not be afraid to punt the football, change field position, and get your defense out on the football field. So, hey, look, aren't we in agreement that right now still the Browns' best opportunity to win is when that defense is flying around and doing their thing and showing why they're one of the top 5 defenses in the NFL? I mean, I don't think that changes at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's the thing. And you would hope that Flacco is smart enough from his experience, Reg, right, to know that, hey, I have a damn good defense here, right? It's okay to punt the football. I remember Jim Tressel telling me, he goes, we loved it when our offense ended with a kick, extra point, field goal, or punt. That was okay. Yeah. If we punted the ball with our defense in 0-2, we were fine with that because we could rely on our defense, field position, get the ball back with a shorter field, and then go get some points the next time. So hopefully Flacco, Stefanski, they get together on the same page. And, Kevin says to him, hey, remember how good our defense is. You don't have to do it all now moving forward. But like you said, you don't want to tame him too much and take away what's made him successful, which is that pretty deep ball that he throws, that play action. I mean, the last game, Reg, and I was sick, so I didn't get to talk to you. They ran one play action fake where he faked the handoff, tucked the ball, turned his back, turned around again. And I was just like, damn, that's like Harry Houdini out there working that magic with the play action. So that to me, you don't want to totally take that away, but you want him to understand it's okay to punt the football and live to play another down the next series.
And Kenny, I trust him, and I believe he understands that. He understands. Look, I mean, he had that, didn't he, in all those very successful years with the Baltimore Ravens? I remember there were times when Ray Lewis and Ed Reed just basically said to him, "Get us 17."
Yep.
I'm not making this up now.
I know.
Get us 17 points, and we're good. Yep. We're good. Just go out and get us 17, and don't turn the ball over on our side of the football field. Well, we've got to deal with a short field. You do that, like you said, punt the football if we're not picking up the first down, and we're good. Get us 17, Joe. And most of the time, Flacco certainly did that and more. So I got faith and belief in it, Kenny. I don't think he's suddenly going to think that he has to start, I got to throw 5 touchdown passes today and take shots into tight windows for us to win. I don't see him doing that. I believe he's much more advanced in the mental aspect of the game than that. So I think you Browns fans should feel good about the way Joe Flacco is going to go about his performance and what it will mean to his football team as they play the Houston Texans.
Reg, they can win this game. There's no doubt in my mind, even though it's on the road and the defense hasn't played as well on the road, right? They're not as good of a team on the road. They can go in there, and the key for me is 1, Flacco not turning it over, and then 2, even though he's been outstanding, and maybe finally Ohio State can say they have a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL because they haven't had any, looking back at their history of guys who have played quarterback in the NFL from the Buckeyes. But even as good as he's been, he's still a rookie, right?
Yeah.
CJ Stroud. And yes, they're going to be at home, but if this defense, which with Myles Garrett and Obo Okoronkwo and, Zadarius Smith and Dalvin Tomlinson and these guys, if they can put the pressure on CJ Stroud and get him out of his rhythm, right? Knock him down, sack him at least once, get in his head a little bit, then that will better their chances, obviously, of winning that football game. Now, we don't know if Delpit will be back. We don't know if Thornhill will be back. Right. One of those two would make a huge difference, right? Preferably for me, Thornhill from his postseason experience, but with that calf or knee or whatever it is, I'm not sure. Same with Delpit. But if you could get one of those two back on the back end of that defense, with the way, Owusu Koromoa has played this year, I think he's made giant steps forward at linebacker, safety, hybrid, whatever that position is, and get Denzel out there going one-on-one with Nico Collins. Again, don't turn it over, Flacco, and put pressure on CJ Stroud. I think the Browns can go on the road and get this win.
And the one guy we just didn't mention when we talk about the football side of things, I'm real glad that Jim Schwartz is wearing the Cleveland Browns colors because, Kenny, I believe in that man, and I'm going to say just straight up front, I think that he's going to do things that confuse CJ Stroud.
Okay.
I really do. And if he's successful in that, I mean, you put a big check mark into that Browns box with the capability of winning the football game. Because if Houston is having a hard time functioning offensively, and again, if Stroud is seeing things and maybe seeing some ghosts, so to speak, I really like the Browns' chances then, and that's all about Jim Schwartz. And I think and expect to him have a very big week of preparation, Kenny Roda, to go face the Texans and C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins and that crew on the road.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, Reg. I was just checking some post-game notes from the Browns that they send to you, me, and all the media members. 11-5 is the final record, second most wins in a regular season for the Browns. And I think this was the seventh time they've, got to 11 victories. I think 12. The year that they had 12 was in 1986. And that's the most wins in a regular season. So Kevin Stefanski, the job that he did getting them to 11 and kind of a throwaway game is the way they played it today. Kudos to him. And I still think he deserves Coach of the Year. I know, D'Amico Ryans is probably going to get consideration now more after winning the AFC South, right? And finishing 10-7. And I know your guy up in Detroit, right? Dan Campbell. He deserves credit as well.
Yeah, he'll be in there. He'll be in the conversation. But
I think Stefanski's as deserving as either of those guys for Coach of the Year this year.
No question. No, there's absolutely no question about it. Kevin Stefanski has done a hell of a job. I mean, Kenny, come on, man. 6 quarterbacks? 6 started football games?
5 different starting quarterbacks.
Was it 5?
Still,
okay.
Yeah.
5. Driscoll made 5?
Still. Yes, Driscoll made 5. And how about this? Driscoll
Incredible.
made number 38 since 1999. 38 different starting quarterback the Browns have had since 1999 and 5th this year for them.
That defies any kind of comprehension that you could even think about putting together about quarterback play in the NFL. However, Kevin Stefanski has done a tremendous job. He's got a real strong shot to be named the Coach of the Year in the NFL. But more so than that, Ken, as I said, to me, I need 2 wins. I'm not expecting them to, as I said, I'm not expecting them to win the Super Bowl this year. Now, if they're able to find a way to pull that off, phenomenal. But I still think that that's a long shot this year. However, got to have a couple of wins, Kenny. I really think that would allow everybody to understand what's potentially on the horizon for the Browns. Then you go into next year, you're a bona fide, legitimate NFL championship, Super Bowl winning contender if they're able to get a couple of wins. Ken, I mean, let's be honest. You go down there, and I don't even want to talk about it that much, but if you go down to Houston and lay an egg, well, I mean, you know how the NFL is. There are going to be people coming out and say, I ain't got to worry about the Browns. Browns don't have what it takes. Had a good regular season. So Kevin Stefanski and the coaches, and that's why I say that Jim Schwartz is going to be so big here. Let's win a football game or 2 and have everybody understanding that this organization is here for keeps. It's here for the long run, and you got the right guys leading it on the sidelines from the coaching perspective.
I'll take 1 win and play well in the second game, right? Get at least 1 win to really take some momentum into next year. Get those, young guys on the defensive side of the ball with some experience there. I think I counted 12 players return on this current roster from the 2020 team that went into Pittsburgh, beat them in the first round, and then lost 22-17 to the Chiefs. Okay. Right. So they've got 12 guys with Cleveland Browns playoff experience. And then when you add in, if Thornhill's able to play and Tomlinson and Zadarius Smith, those guys have some postseason experience as well. Hopefully that will help them as they go on the road here to take on the Houston Texans. So I like their chances if they win the turnover battle, Reg. I think that's what this one is going to come down to, but I'm concerned if it comes down to field goals. And, if Dustin Hopkins can't go, I'll be curious to see if Stefanski is a little bit more aggressive, right, in his play calling and in certain yardage and down situations where if it's, 4th and 4, 4th and 5, even 4th and 6, where he would probably take the 3 points, kick the field goal. If it's beyond 40 yards with, what's the kid's name again? I already forgot his name. Riley Patterson.
Patterson?
Yeah. If he's the kicker, you might see Stefanski saying, hey, with our defense, let's roll the dice and try and, pick up the first down and go for 7 or a closer field goal if we can do this, as opposed to, attempting the long field goal, missing it, not getting the points, and then giving them good field position.
Could happen. Again, Kenny, I think in that at the minimum, though, I still need 27 points,
Okay.
from the Browns. I think I just don't see, a 16-13 field goal fest down there in Houston. So I think if the Browns can 27 points, I think they're winning the football game.
Okay.
So and what you just said is I'm with you on that. Go ahead, be aggressive, Kevin Stefanski, because the last thing you want, Kenny, is, as we know, how many times, not just the Browns, everybody in the NFL, if there's a lack of confidence in the kicker, oh boy,
Yeah.
that doesn't make winning fellows with your football team. So, go ahead. I mean, go for it on 4th and 2, 4th and 3. A couple of times and see where it takes you. It shows great confidence and the will to keep drives going with your offense. And I got no problem if Stefanski takes that tact next week in Houston to start the game out in the first half.
I think he should go to Schwartz at the beginning of the week of practice and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. So tell your guys on defense, we trust them. We need them. We're going to be a little more aggressive because of our kicker situation if Hopkins can't kick, right? So, let them know well ahead of time that, hey, we may call upon them if we don't pick up a 4th down situation where they really need to bow up and get a stop. So we'll see how it plays out. Should be a lot of fun, though. Browns fans are going to have a blast with it. I know even for this crappy game today against the Bengals, the Browns backers were out in Stark County at jerseys cheering on their Jeff Driscoll-led Cleveland Browns. Although there's a nice mock cheer going up when they got their second first down of the game today, whenever that was. And then he threw a couple of late touchdown passes to David Bell.
How about that?
I thought for sure Driscoll was going to run one in, so I had him on an anytime touchdown run bet today, for $5 to win $50 or whatever, and he didn't. And I was so pissed when David Bell caught it at about the 2. I thought he was going to go out of bounds and I was going to cash in. Thanks for nothing, Jeff Driscoll.
Sorry you didn't win that cash, Kenny. I love that. It's a good play. No, that's a good play you made and had. Unfortunately, he decided to throw the ball into the end zone for your purposes. But again, today, okay, we'll file it and forget it. I mean, you're down 31-0. I mean, it was very obvious. To me, when Cincinnati went up 14-0, it's like, well, this is not okay.
That's it. Yeah.
That's all. This is what it is, because this is not going to be a day at all that the Browns are able to match offense with offense and put points on the board. So, regular season done. What do we say? I believe if we go back, did I not say 11-6, partner, when we started the year?
I think you did.
I did.
Yeah, and I said I think they'll get to at least 10 wins, but I wasn't as confident as getting to 11 as you. But yeah, so we were in the ballpark there, and we felt they could be a postseason team, and to do it with 5 different starting quarterbacks and all their injuries, God bless them. Now let's see if they can take the next step and actually win a postseason game, as they're the 5 seed. Houston is the 4 seed. We're still waiting as we're taping this, folks, and we don't know at this time what day or time the Browns will play. We just know they're playing Houston, okay? And we don't know the rest of the seeding in the AFC as we're taping this, but here's what we can tell you. Baltimore is the number 1 seed in the AFC. They get the bye next week. Here's the 7-2 matchup, all right? If Buffalo wins tonight while we're taping this, they'll host Pittsburgh. If Miami wins, they'll host Buffalo next week, okay? And that also potentially sets up either Pittsburgh against KC or Miami against KC, depending on what happens tonight. And as you and I are taping this, it is 7-0 Miami in the second quarter, and Josh Allen has thrown 2 picks already in this game. And therein lies the problem with the Buffalo Bills, Reg, right? Talking about gunslingers and that.
Oh, yeah.
That's Josh Allen's style. He's a lot like Brett Favre. And so that's their problem. So that's the AFC playoff picture. We know all the matchups in the NFC. 7-seeded Green Bay goes to number 2 Dallas. 6-seeded LA Rams go to your number 3-seeded Detroit Lions.
How about that one? Matthew Stafford back in Ford Field, man, against the Lions. And oh boy, growing up in that city, Kenny, like you would probably say the same thing if a situation like this arose in Pittsburgh. If Stafford comes in there and takes the Lions out, oh my.
Talk about pressure being on a quarterback. Jared Goff he's going to be feeling it all week and then on the field as well whenever those two play. But yeah, that's your 6-3 matchup, Rams at Lions, and your 5-4 matchup, the Baker Mayfield led Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the 4-seed hosting the number 5 seed Philadelphia Eagles, who at one time were 10-1. They've lost 5 of 6, and they will play on the road at Tampa. And your 1 seed is San Fran with the bye, Reg.
Can you imagine what's going on in that hardcore sports city of Philadelphia, PA, Kenny? I mean, as you said, 10-1. They've lost 5 of 6. They don't look cohesive offensively at all anymore. And man, oh man, if they happen to go out early, heads are going to roll in Philly. Well, probably in more ways than one. Heads are going to roll. So, yeah, there's a couple of real intriguing matchups. And how about Mike McCarthy going to tangle with how many years did he coach the Packers? 9, 8, 9, somewhere in there.
It's a lot.
So they're going to be playing.
Yeah,
he's going to get his former squad from the Green Bay Packers. So, yeah, there's a lot of intrigue in various matchups. Yes.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I watched that entire Dallas game today. CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott right now, probably the most fearful combination in the entire National Football League. CeeDee Lamb finished this year 135 catches, 1,749 yards, and 12 TDs.
He's best receiver in football right now. Right? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of them, but, man, I put CeeDee Lamb right up there.
Yeah, he's got a touchdown in 9 straight games, and so there's a team to keep an eye on. San Fran, Brock Purdy, let's see if you can actually do it, Mr. Irrelevant. But watch out for the Dallas Cowboys, and I think Baltimore, while they're the favorites, nothing would surprise me this year in the playoffs the way this NFL season has gone, Michael Reghi.
No, I'm with you on that. Never does, and we're gonna be here to discuss it all on R&R through the course of the next 4 weeks.
All right, let's do this, Reg. Let's get a break in right now and come back. And on the other side of that break here on the R&R podcast, we're going to preview the national championship game. 2 undefeated teams, both 14-0, number 1 Michigan against number 2 Washington. We'll give you our thoughts on who's going to come away with college football's national championship when we return on the Reghi and Roda podcast, powered by MGM Northfield Park on the Press Play Podcast Network.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, the Roadman Kenny Roda here for MGM Northfield Park, the title sponsor of the Reghi and Roda podcast, and we can't thank them enough for being on board once again as 2024 is underway. And in the month of January, if you want the live racing schedule, I've got it for you here. Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing, but catch the excitement of that live harness racing every Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. Wager and win daily on top thoroughbred and harness tracks from around the world with action starting right at around noon. Free admission, free parking every day at Northfield Park, and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the R&R podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, powered by MGM Northfield Park. And Michael Reghi, a lot of good games coming up in the NFL playoffs. We've got one playoff game left in college football. It's for the Natty title, and it's number one Michigan, 14-0, and what may be Jim Harbaugh's last game as the head coach at Michigan. And they're going up against the Michael Penix-led Huskies of Washington, also 14-0, 1-2. The two undefeated teams that are left are going head-to-head for the title on Monday night. This should be a heck of a football game.
Oh, absolutely it should, because you've got this high-octane, very prolific offense that Michael Penix leads. I mean, Kenny, what a year Penix has had. The left-handed gunslinger, right? That, I mean, he's thrown for close to 5,000 yards on the year. They put up 37 points a game. And, of course, but, it's all about Penix and his arm. Dylan Johnson, they run the football pretty well, but, Penix he's had the best year of any quarterback in college football, in my opinion. He's been absolutely terrific. And then, to counter that, you got the Michigan defense ranked number 2 in college football. They don't even give up. They give up 9 points a game.
Right.
And, nobody has passed for 300 yards on them this year. So, I mean, this is going to be the type of matchup that, you kind of break the game down and you break it down into units. Well, this is all about the Washington offense against the Michigan defense. And yet, Michigan offensively is very good. They're at almost 400 yards per game this year. They average on the year 37 points per game. And, it should be an incredible matchup. And I hope it doesn't turn into a one-sided disappointment either way. I really can't see that happening, Kenny, because I just think that these two teams are just too damn good, quite frankly, that either is going to get beaten decisively in a national championship game.
I look at this game, Reg, and I go back to a few years ago with the Clemson squad that a bunch of guys came back, right? They wanted to win a national championship, and a lot of guys, skipped going to the NFL to come back as seniors or fifth-year seniors, right? And they ended up winning a national championship that year, and a lot of those players benefited from it, not only as Natty title guys, but also it helped their draft stock. And I was just counting it up on the offensive side of the ball, the roster. Michigan's got 24 senior players on the offensive
either fourth
side
or fifth year guys, right?
Yeah,
fourth or fifth year guys. Yeah,
right.
Yep.
And then I think it's like 18 to 20 on the defensive side of the ball. So I think, with the adversity that they have faced on and off the field, with Jim Harbaugh coaching, not coaching, not coaching, and now coaching again with that team, right? They've handled everything that's been thrown at them. Let's be honest, Washington has as well. A lot of one-score victory games for Washington in close games.
Yeah.
But I just think that senior leadership, that toughness at the line of scrimmage, and no offense to the Pac-12 or the Big 12, okay, or even the SEC for that matter this year. I don't think for sure the Pac-12 and the Big 12 are tough enough, okay, like Michigan is. I think Michigan would have handled Texas. I think Michigan would have handled, they did handle Alabama, and I think they're going to handle Washington. I just think their physicality and the ability to control the line of scrimmage, and if J.J. McCarthy doesn't make, dumb mistakes. I mean, first pass, he got a huge break last week against Alabama when that first pass he threw was picked off of the game, right? And the kid, unfortunately for Bama, didn't reestablish himself. So he's got to avoid the mistakes he made at TCU last year and that early mistake that was wiped out against Alabama. If he can realize, too, that just you don't have to make, the big play. Don't make the big mistake, I think, is the way that he needs to play it. Whereas for Washington to win, Mike, Penix has to go out of his way and I was trying to figure out who he has to play like in this game. He has to be Vince Young-like in this game for Washington to win it. He has to have that Vince Young Texas win over USC in order for Washington to win, whereas McCarthy just has to run the offense, not make mistakes, and rely on his running game with Blake Corum and that defense.
Yeah, and I think Penix is capable of that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I really like the way this young man has really matured during the course of his college football career. Now, remember, not the same players, of course, but this Michigan coaching staff, they've played him when he was at Indiana.
Correct.
And Michigan beat Indiana when Penix was quarterbacking them. But, this is Michael Penix's sixth year, Kenny, in college football, with the portal and everything else, as we see. So he is a quarterback that has been around. I think he's 24 years old, and this is his opportunity to, let everybody know that he's ready to put on one big performance and roll his way into the National Football League, starting next year. So, we're going to find out if that's the case. I do think that he's going to see some things, as we were just saying, about how I think Jim Schwartz is going to approach this. I think Jesse Minter and the Michigan defensive staff, he's the defensive coordinator. I mean, Kenny, they give up only 9 points a game all year long in 14 games. And we know anything near that. I don't think if Washington doesn't get out of the teens, or maybe even around 20, low 20s, I just don't see how they can win the football game. Because the one area that Washington is, just say average to okay, Kenny, their run defense, and we know that's Michigan's bread and butter, man.
Yeah.
Even with the loss of Zach Zinner, they're going to get that run game, and they're going to look to overpower the Washington Huskies, as you just said. As in essence, they did to Alabama, control the game in the run. And if Washington can find a way to at least not let Michigan go on those, Washington can't give up 3 7 to 8 minute drives to Michigan and expect to win the football game, which i.e. again means their front seven is going to have to get the job done again against Michigan's run game. Can they? Well, we're going to find out on Monday night, because questionable at best whether they'll be able to do that or not.
Reg, I think you nailed something right there. Shorten the game, long offensive drives, end it with a touchdown. Keep Penix off the field.
Yep.
If you're Michigan, I think that's the big thing for the Wolverines to win it. And I also think if Michigan can hold them to a field goal on 1 or 2 drives, right? Instead of 7, you only give up 3. That's a win for the Michigan defense because of their big play capability with Penix. I've got it 28-27 Michigan.
Wow.
Winning it by 1
point game, huh? Yeah.
And grabbing their first national championship since they shared it with, who was it? Was it Nebraska or Colorado in 97?
It was Tom Osborne and Nebraska.
Okay.
Back in 1997.
Yeah, so this will be their first title since 97. I think they get it done, and I think Jim Harbaugh says thank you, but no thanks to a contract extension and becomes the coach of the San Diego Chargers. How about that for a prediction? He goes to San Diego. Some people are telling me, no, he's going to Chicago. He's going to be the Bears head coach. I heard others say, oh, he's going to take over for Belichick in New England when Belichick gets fired or steps down this week. I think he goes to San Diego because didn't he coach? He coached at Stanford, but before Stanford, was it San Diego State? Is that where he was at?
No, it was the University of San Diego.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So I think he ends up with I still call them the San Diego Chargers. I know they're the LA Chargers, but with a quarterback like that, and in a division he's familiar, or I shouldn't say that, in a league he's familiar with, I think he ends up in the NFL after completing his task of bringing a national championship as a Michigan man back to the Wolverines. Yeah,
well, and, I don't know, there's a lot of thought that even with a loss on Monday night, Kenny, that, probably – I think, the best thought is that he wants to do that because he also, had a loss to his brother in the Super Bowl he was with. But, Kenny, in 5 years with the San Francisco 49ers, he averaged 11 wins a year, went to NFC championship games, won a lot of playoff games with the Niners. So, look, that's why he's highly coveted in the NFL he just turned 60 years old. So he's still got some fire in the tank. And I do too. I think that tomorrow night is going to be Jim Harbaugh's final game with the Michigan Wolverines, and especially if he does win and they win the national championship. And, so quarterback there and then came back and, had a very good career as a quarterback there, won a lot of bowl games there. And come back and get it done. I think the thing for him would be to go back to the NFL and then see if at some point he can cross that off his checklist too.
We'll see how it plays out Monday night, 7:30-ish, I believe, is kickoff. Browns will know later tonight, but we'll have already been done taping this podcast. If the Browns play Saturday, Sunday, or they're the Monday night game next week, I hope it's not the Monday night game. 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, 1 on Monday in the NFL playoffs. And we'll be back to, recap either a Browns playoff victory or a Browns playoff loss next week, Reg. And then we'll also start diving in a little bit more to the Cavaliers, who have won 3 in a row now and are 5 or 6 games above the 500 mark as we're taping this here tonight. So a lot to get to, a lot to talk about in the coming weeks here on the R&R podcast.
Yeah, Kenny, no doubt about it. I'm impressed without Evan Mobley and Darius Garland that they've been able to hold up like this. And you're right, we'll get into all of that next week. But man, next weekend's going to be fun, and I certainly am always looking forward to us getting together and chopping it all up here on R&R. So, Roadman, stay healthy, buddy. Have a good week, and we'll look forward to see what Kevin Stefanski and this Brown squad has going on when they get down to Houston, Texas again.
Sounds great. Thanks again to our producer, Ty Courts, for making sure you all get this in the podcatosphere. And Happy New Year to everybody out there. Good to be back. Thanks for your loyalty, your listenership, and also thanks to MGM Northfield Park as they remain on as our title sponsor here on the R&R podcast. And we appreciate that very, very much. Have a great week, everybody. We'll see what the Brownies do. And whatever it is, you bet Reghi and Roda will break it down for you next week here